What is the pathway for victory for the NDC ahead of 2027 elections? More so when you consider arguments here and there that someone from the minority tribe or some people have a sense of the people who should be president and those who should not be president. What do you think the pathway for victory for the NDC?
Well, I don't think the Southeast is a minority group of people in Nigeria. We are one of the major segments of the population of this country. The Igbo people of Nigeria live in every part of Nigeria. Every part of Nigeria. There's no place we go to in Nigeria that if you remove the indigenous population, the next population will not be the Igbos. Any part, even with the heat of insecurity, if you go to the far north, in the remote villages, the Igbos are there doing business. So if you take a proper census, you will notice that Igbos are so many in Nigeria. We are a very large segment of the population. So an Igbo man is not a typical minority person in Nigeria. But in the context of election in Nigeria, I don't even think that we are thinking properly. Nations that have succeeded are not looking for leaders from majority tribes. If you recall, Bill Clinton, from the state of Arkansas, is from a very small state, and he became president of America. Barack Obama is a black and a minority in the true sense of it, but he became president of America. When Bill Clinton, with his British descent in America, and from a small state of Arkansas that has very few, I think either 3 or 6 electoral college votes, he became the president of America. This is how a nation that is desirous to embrace progress think, not about whether you are from the majority tribe. Jesus Christ came from Bethlehem. Prophet Muhammad also came from not the majority place. And he bettered Islam. Jesus bettered Christianity. Bethlehem was the smallest city in Judea. And today, you talk about Jesus Christ among Christians. You talk about Prophet Muhammad among Muslims. So we should not be thinking about where anybody comes from in Nigeria. God can find somebody from any corner of Nigeria and imbue him with the best of abilities, intelligence, and disposition to make this country great. We almost got over it in 2023. Because initially, it was that Peter Obi will not get votes. It's an Igbo man. Some people are still thinking like that, even today. People living in the past. But when the numbers came out, it happened. Kwankwaso has even acknowledged it. I was one of the 3 people from Labour Party that discussed with NNPP on an alliance with Labour Party. And at that time, not even an alliance for Kwankwaso to be a running mate to Peter Obi. We had that meeting 2 days. Myself, Doyin Okukpe, and Abure represented Labour Party. NNPP put forward Alhaji Buba Galadima, Mr. Bafa, formerly of the Net Fund, and Mr. Johnson from Lagos. 6 of us met for 2 days. And we were not able to agree on who becomes the vice president and who should be the presidential candidate. When they said that Peter Obi, he was dismissed. Like, how many votes will he get? After 2023, all that now changed. Because Kwankwaso has now seen that it is not so. Obi got 6.1 million votes and he got about 1.4 million votes. So now he knows that the way of thinking then is wrong. So that is why now he's working very hard to see that his partnership with Obi will bet a new Nigeria. He knows that the voters are no longer thinking in the primordial sense or tribal sentiment. Some people are still playing the ethnic card placard today saying that nobody should vote for Obi. Obi will not get vote. And some people are saying it without shame on television. Anybody who wishes Nigeria greatness should know that a leader that will emancipate Nigeria can come from the smallest ethnic group in Nigeria. What is important is that Nigeria gets somebody who does what he says. Somebody who will be there for all Nigeria. Somebody who can give us the Rwanda model. What is the Rwanda model? The case of Hutsis and Tutsis that were killing themselves. It's like the Igbos and the Hausas, or the Yorubas and the Igbos, or anybody, any ethnic group against the other. There was genocide. And eventually, when God intervened, peace came. Paul Kagame became president. He fought his way from exile to change the government in Rwanda and turn the country around. When I watch television today, people will be saying, oh, minister went to Kigali, this person went to Kigali, president went to Kigali. We should be asking, why is Kigali the destination for civilized discussions globally now? Because he came and ended tribalism in Rwanda. If you ask anybody, where are you from? Are you a Tutsi or Hutu? He will tell you, I'm a Rwandan. I tried it in 2024. I went to Kigali for a conference. And I got to the reception in the hotel where I was being checked in. Two beautiful girls were there. They looked almost similar. So I asked the girl, are you, out of anxiety, I said, are you Hutsi or Tutsi? She didn't talk to me. I asked her the question again. She didn't talk to me. I said, you don't want to ask me, are you offended? She did not talk to me. The other girl with her in the reception told me, we are Rwandans. Hey, it sank a piercing nail to my heart to show me that we are wasting our time in Nigeria. While on that tour, that visit, I went to the war memorial where they buried millions of people that were killed during that genocide. We went there, and they took you through. They'll take you through the beginning to the end. You go around and see at the museum all things that happened, the massacres and all that, and then you come out at the end of the tour, and you feel so pained. They will take you to mass graves. They say, here, 5,000 people are buried here. 20,000 people were buried here. So Rwanda became a nation that was conscious of their past. And they decided to break away from their past. Today, what they have is Rwanda. They don't have Tutsi, they don't have Hutu. They must have the blood of the old, but they have not embraced each other. That's what Nigeria must do. This thing will come here and deceive ourselves. It will not help Nigeria. Where somebody will be pretending to be a Nigerian and tell you Nigeria is for all. And when he gets power, he begins to deal with his people. Others will be just onlookers. It's not good. So what we are going to do in Nigeria is to go back to prepare for a new Nigeria, where Nigeria will be available to everybody, irrespective of your tribe, irrespective of your origin, where opportunities available to Nigerian youths will be even, where our youth will have equal access to employment opportunities. We are seeing some of these things happen and represent people who feel marginalized. In the ongoing custom recruitment exercise now, I serve in the Senate Committee on Customs. And we're given one slot per senator in the committee for employment. My candidate nominee has been turned down several times. And each time, I have to come back from behind to make a case for him to be invited. And at this stage they are now, they have not called him again. I'm making efforts to see if he can get that same one opportunity my colleagues got. And if you see this thing at this level, what do you think about Nigeria? The Controller General of Customs, understand, is aware. I'm waiting for him to come back. I'll go to his office and ask him, why should this be the case? If myself as a senator can be denied the right to nominate one person of my constituency in this recruitment, you are taking thousands of people. What justification would that be? What is it? So people are suffering this type of thing everywhere in this country. And you say that we will continue this way. Very soon, it will become, if you are a member of APC, or your APC wins your state or your constituency, you will not be entitled to anything. Nigeria cannot continue this way. That is why we are still out there to tell government and those who are in authority to help this country. Anywhere you go to, globally, you see Nigerians doing well. I was chairman of Senate Committee on Diaspora and Non-Governmental Organizations between 2023 and 2024. I've gone around and I've seen that Nigerians are walking and holding their heads high, both Yoruba, Hausas, because as they are messing up the country here, there are Northerners who are brilliant minds that have developed overseas. Some of them have gone to Cambridge, some of them have gone to Oxford. I was traveling back to Nigeria from London, and I met two young graduates that just finished from Oxford with PhD. One in Cambridge, PhD, one in Oxford, Cambridge. And I interacted with them. So all those hopeless people who are still living the country blindly, trying to tell a youth from northern Nigeria not to vote for a certain ethnic group, their time will soon run out. Because these young people that are acquiring Western education, their minds are developed. There was a day in the Senate we were talking about insurgency in the Northeast. I blame the governors. What is happening is because of no education. An educated mind is a civilized mind, is a light unto the nation. So they should devote all their money into training their children. So there's a time people from the North will challenge their parents. The children will challenge their parents. And today it's already happening. Peter Obi is popular among the Northern youths. And the old politicians are talking about North will not vote for Igbo man. I'm happy that Kwankwaso, in his recent interview, said that in 2023, his daughter told him to go and work with Peter Obi. 2023, Kwankwaso said it on television. Go and work with Peter Obi. This man represents the change we need in Nigeria. And the father was running for president. The daughter told him. So for him to say it publicly, you can see that there are so many people in the families in the North who now know that we cannot continue this way.
Let's wrap up this way. Have you reflected on the scenario where it looks as if removing Tinubu from office is weakened? And if no, what's the optimism going to 2027?
Well, anything Nigerians people want should be done. I'm not saying that Obi, for example, must win the election. I'm not saying that any other candidate, for that matter, must win the election. Or whoever becomes candidate of any party must win the election. Or that Tinubu must lose the election. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that your record should carry you through in seeking either re-election or election to come in for the first time. And that the right and the power of the people must be respected in the democracy that we have. If you have done well by your own assessment, and the people you are leading or governing say that you have not done well, you should bow out. You submit to their will through the ballot. You may be saying that you have done well. There are people are saying you have not done well. Allow them to decide it. If they vote yes for you, you continue. So that is what we should be looking towards. And the electoral body should know that they cannot manipulate this election. Nigerian elections will not continue to be controversial because the world will leave us behind. The rest of the world will leave us behind. We must be looking for a way to have free and fair election. Our constitution is a paradox. Our constitution makes a president who is contesting an election to choose electoral officials. He appoints the INEC chairman, and we are busy going around talking about free and fair election. Electoral reform is key to sustenance of democracy. Constitutional amendment is imperative because selfishness has not allowed those who are in authority to pursue the egalitarian reforms we're talking about. I was national chairman of ABGA, and one day, the chief electoral officer of South Africa came here in Abuja. We were in a IPAC conference, and she delivered a paper because she's a woman. She told us how she got appointed. The president did not appoint her chairman of South Africa Electoral Commission. There is a process. But here in Nigeria, I'm not blaming Tinubu because, or the President Tinubu, because he is making use of the constitution he has to his advantage. He appoints everybody. Every agency of government in Nigeria, the leadership is appointed by the president. He appoints people to the armed forces leadership. He appoints people everywhere. Immigration, custom, everything is in the hands of the president. The president of Nigeria, the strongest president in the whole world. He appoints somebody who will conduct an election, he will run. So Nigerians should be thinking properly. So I'm not saying that by all means that Tinubu must go. But I'm challenging him as somebody who has been part of a democratic struggle through NADECO to do something that will be a legacy in Nigeria. That legacy is not railway line or roads. All these things they are showing us on television, coastal highway. They are not legacies. The real legacy Tinubu will leave in Nigeria will be to prepare this country for genuine democracy. That will be the legacy. If he has not understood it, I want you to understand it through this my program. I don't look at where he has built roads or this and that. Let him, first of all, ensure that we have true democracy here. Because a nation that practices true democracy will never fail. The people will always have the right to choose those who lead them, not people who will be imposed on them. And there's no society that will choose bad people and put them in leadership. It is electoral banditry and fraud that bring people into leadership in Nigeria. That is our ban. So let him leave a legacy of purpose. The person who was about doing it, Nigeria was unlucky. He died, Umaru Yar'Adua. Because when he won the election, he came in and on his inauguration he said, I acknowledge that I have come to power through a flawed election and I promise you electoral reform. That's what he did. And he set up the Justice West Electoral Reform Committee. Go and pick the record of that committee. See the people who served in that committee, how they were selected, and their recommendations. But unfortunately, he died. The devil took him away from Nigeria. If Umaru Yar'Adua had lived for 4 years and another term of 4 years as president of Nigeria, we won't be in this mess. So I'm challenging those who have power now to stop thinking about self-preservation. Let them think about the well-being of Nigerian people, well-being of our democracy. When things are done properly, nobody loses. Because any government that is changed, the people that will come will be thinking about the people. You know, let that be a culture. Not when people are crying. You are talking about how powerful your party is, how you have conquered the rest of Nigeria. There's nobody who will be president of Nigeria and decide to annihilate everybody that will not be able to do so. There's nobody. If you give me the powers and I want to run anybody out of this country, I will run the person out of this country. But it is for you to decide to have a break and put the country in a different direction. The president controls EFCC. President controls every agency. So if you are not for him, he can set them on you. So we need liberation. The country needs liberation. And only somebody who wants to lay the seed for a great Nigeria that can do it. And that's the opportunity the president that is on seat has. Unfortunately, he has not done that. Leadership is what comes from God. And if leadership that you hold comes from God, you think about how to make the ground level for everybody. Our constitution in section 14.3 speaks about federal character in all things that we do. Appointments. That section says that no part of Nigeria shall have preponderance of people appointed to government or agencies of government against the other parts of Nigeria. In other words, there shall be equal opportunities to all nations, all the parts of the country. How you bring people into public service. You have to take every part of Nigeria into focus. Give the youths equal opportunity from all parts of Nigeria. In recruitment, in anything, in the armed forces, everything. Can anybody tell me that that is what is happening in Nigeria today? It is in the constitution. It is not at president's discretion. In the 8th Senate, when they came to get confirmation for members of the EFCC board, and they brought 4 nominees, they excluded the Southeast and the South-South. I'm happy that I stood up and opposed the confirmation. Because if I had confirmed that position, Bauer and one other person would have been in the board from the Northeast. The secretary to the commission was from the Southwest, and one other person was from Kaduna. I asked them 6 positions that would have gone 1-1 geopolitical zone. You excluded South-South and Southeast. I fought it and mobilized my colleagues who shut it down. The nominations were sent back to Buhari. And it took him 1 year and some months to correct it and now balance it. He brought somebody from Cross River to represent the South-South. He brought somebody from Enugu to represent Southeast. And he went around 1-1. So this is what we are talking about in Nigeria. That section of the Constitution, 14.3, I want the president to go and read it and do a self-assessment of what he has done. And APC must begin to do impact assessment of its policies on the Nigerian people. Impact assessment. If you go to Niger Delta, there's what is called environmental impact assessment due to oil exploration activities. If your exploration activities damage the aquaculture, the environment, you have to know what to do. There must be remediation. Otherwise, that place will become abandoned place. So please, help me as a journalist to reach out to those who are in authority and those who want to come into authority, that Nigeria is a beautiful country, blessed by God. We have so many things to make our citizens happy. Look at South Africa that we liberated from the apartheid oppression of the black people. Look at them now killing Nigerians and asking us to go home. People that we set free through our struggle, our resources, starting from Murtala Mohammed down the line. Nigeria was in the front fighting for independence of South Africa. Black rule. They let the black people rule South Africa. With music and everything. Who owns the land? I want to know who owns the land. I want to know. That's Sonny Okosun from Nigeria. The music went around the world. I want to know who owns the land. The song went everywhere. Nigeria put everything there, and today they're chasing us away. A Nigeria where we had everything going for us, now Nigerians are going to other countries to be subjected to humiliation because life has become unbearable in this God-blessed country.